Hi, everyone. My name is Jimmy. I am a senior product manager at AWS, and I focus on enabling you to optimize your usage and your spend as much as possible. Our team does that today through recommendations to help you essentially pick the right resource sizes. So that might be EC2 instances, that might be EBS volumes, and now databases. And this has been the top request from all of you, and so I'm really happy to share that with you and take a closer look at these recommendations. We're always thinking about how do we expand these recommendations, so if you've got ideas on what you would like to see next, come see us afterwards, and we'd love to get your feedback on what's most important to you. We'll spend about 15 minutes on the RDS recommendations, and then I'll hand it back over to Zach to talk about data exports. Now, before I jump into the recommendations, I want to take just a quick poll. How many of you have RDS in your top 3 spend items? Great. And keep your hand up if you're a database expert and you're fully equipped to go and optimize these databases. All right, whoever's got their hand up, I want to talk to you after the session because I want to learn from you. But with these recommendations, we really want to do the heavy lifting for you. And so we've thought about all of the capacities and settings for Amazon RDS that's going to impact your cost as well as your performance. And we've worked with our service team database experts to come up with these recommendations to make sure they're done right. And so we've thought about, okay, what are the different use cases that you are thinking about when you're optimizing your databases? And we've come up with these recommendations. First, we want to tell you when you might be provisioning unused databases. And we know a lot of times teams will keep unused databases around for disaster recovery, high availability. And so in our definition of what we consider as idle, we really want to be identifying those that are highly likely to be idle so you can have a more productive conversation with your teams. We also tell you what we think might be the more optimum instance size, and that includes upgrades to your instances, that includes Graviton migrations, and we'll give you the instance type, the exact instance type that might give you a better cost performance. Similarly, on the storage, we will tell you when you might be able to upgrade to a GP3 volume to get that newer hardware, and we'll look at your IOPS and your throughput to make a recommendation that can help you reduce cost. And the storage recommendations are really nice because they don't incur downtime. And so that's an easier conversation to have with your application teams as an opportunity to start building trust, to start taking advantage of the optimizations. So let's talk about how you're going to see these recommendations and where you can get them. One of the most important things that we've heard from FinOps teams is we want to see these optimization opportunities in one place across all of our accounts, across all of our regions, and I want to be able to prioritize them against my other savings opportunities. And you'll be able to do that in Cost Optimization Hub. If you've got that enabled, if you've got AWS Compute Optimizer enabled, these recommendations will automatically show up so that you can see them alongside your EC2 optimizations, your EBS volume optimizations, and you can use these filters to identify the opportunities that are going to have the most return for those actions. And when you drill down into these opportunities, you'll see on the right-hand side all of the different actions you might be able to take. So for example, I've got a list of, can everybody see the details in the line items? Okay, great. So if you've got, let's say you've got 2 databases here, right? Database 1 and database 2. For database 1, we'll list out the different actions that we recommend. So you might want to stop this instance, or you could migrate it to Graviton, and you can also right-size it to a different instance type. And each of these are going to have a different savings estimate associated with it. And when we roll it up to the donut chart, we'll deduplicate all of those savings to make sure you get an accurate estimate of what the opportunity is going to be. Now, another really important feedback that we've heard from customers is we want this estimation to be as accurate as possible. And we want that to reflect your discounts and your rates. And so what we've baked in here is awareness of your reserved instances. And so that we're only showing you recommendations that are going to have actual cost impact and cost savings. And so that's baked in from day one into these recommendations. Now, after you've used Cost Optimization Hub to identify these high ROI recommendations, you want to go talk to your application teams, right? You're ready to go and say, hey, I've identified this many savings. These are low effort, high value actions that we can take. But a lot of times what teams will come back and say is, well, I want to understand the recommendations. I need some more data to evaluate them. The look back period might not be long enough, right? There's a whole list of reasons that we've heard from customers that teams need more information to go and evaluate these opportunities. And so they'll be able to see these recommendations in Compute Optimizer. They'll be able to click through each of these options, look at the specifications that are being recommended, and see all of the metrics that we use to make these recommendations in one place. And this is a really powerful view because it aggregates all of these metrics over a period of time so they can look at, okay, what are my peaks look like? If I use this new recommended instance type, what would my peaks look like then? And then I can evaluate whether or not this recommendation is going to make sense. The other part of this is, teams are going to want to be able to understand this at a granular level, and so each of these recommendations is going to be deep linked from Cost Optimization Hub back to this console where you can view each of these recommendations. Now, the last thing that you're going to want to do is, well, how do I get this data out? I've got all of these recommended actions. I want to share them with my teams. And so we're really excited to share a new feature to export these recommendations so that you can enrich them, you can find the right owners for these actions, and share them across your organization. And I'm going to hand it over to Zach to talk more about how that works.
Cool. Thanks. And I'll take that green button. Right. So as I forgot to mention at the beginning that I'm actually the product manager for cost and usage reporting. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about some of the improvements that we've made to data exports recently and that we launched just this morning. So just to kind of summarize or I guess reiterate on some of the benefits that Jimmy was talking about with this feature, Cost Optimization Hub. It's a place that you can go to get consolidated recommendations that AWS provides, that we provide through Compute Optimizer for savings plan and ROI recommendations, and as Jimmy mentioned, that you can use savings deduplication to make sure that you only see the recommendations that you can apply at the same time. Sometimes you might see recommendations where you can't actually take both of them. And as we do at AWS, we listen to our customers, and two of the things that we heard very often was that customers wanted to conduct their own analysis of recommendations data. You wanted to build BI dashboards in order to share the recommendations outside of just the AWS console. And so that's why we're happy to announce that you can now export your cost optimization recommendations through data exports. Like most of our exports, they're delivered to Amazon S3 on a daily basis. You can get them in Parquet or CSV file type. And we also provided the same sort of interface that you have in Cost Optimization Hub, where you can filter recommendations first, and you can apply or disable savings deduplication to either see the entire list of recommendations or see only the ones that you can apply, given the criteria that you've listed there. And we believe that with this feature, you can now use data files from Cost Optimization Hub to do your own analysis and to build more richer dashboards with optimization opportunities by pairing that with the other data sources that we provide, such as cost and usage reports. And another one I'll be talking about shortly. So I'll talk just briefly about what is in an export from Cost Optimization Hub. So each row is going to be a single recommendation, and each recommendation will have a type, and there's over 15 different types at this time. You can expect to see 25 columns, and I've listed them out there, and you can scan through them and look at our documentation later to learn more about what exactly is contained in each of those columns. But I want to highlight that some of the most important parts are going to be that it's going to tell you how do I implement this recommendation, how much savings can I expect from it, and you can use that information to prioritize what you're going to do. But this should match the data or this will match the data that's included in the Cost Optimization Hub APIs. So this is just a more simple way rather than working with paginated APIs and trying to build your own data set and ingest it into whatever tools you're using. We're taking that heavy lifting away from you and giving you the data in export. So there's 3 ways that you can create an export. The first is just by going to the Cost Optimization Hub. You can use the interface that we provide there while you're looking at opportunities to filter by different criteria, change whether deduplication is applied or not, and you'll actually see the recommendations that are available before you decide you want to export it. And then if you click the button at the top right of the screen, that'll bring you to the Data Exports console, and it will retain all of the filters that you've selected, and it'll start, once you've completed the creation of that export, it'll start delivering to Amazon S3 on a recurring cadence. You can also go just directly to the Data Exports console and generate from there if you really know what you're doing and you don't want to preview the data first. And of course, we have a rich set of APIs that are available in our SDKs and our CLI. And trying to get to the next slide here. Oh, there we go. So really quickly, I'm just going to show an example of how you would go create an export. So we started from the Data Exports console page, and then you click the Create button, which is really the window, the gateway to all of the exports that you can create there. You can select from the 3 different tables down below. So we provide CUR, Cost Optimization Recommendations, and another one. Down below then you can start applying any filters that you want to look specifically at or to filter down to specific recommendations you want. In this case, I've decided to filter by implementation effort, and I only want to see recommendations that are easy to do. We have SQL running underneath the hood here, and so you can actually select what columns you want included, and that the console will generate the SQL statement for you. Further down, you're going to then select the S3 bucket that you want, as well as the file format. You have to agree to a policy to give data exports permissions to write to that bucket, configure where you actually want it delivered in that bucket, and then with one click, your data will start getting delivered on a regular cadence to the Amazon S3 bucket you specified. And you can also go back to an export at any time and change the SQL query, change what columns are included if you ever choose to do so. All right, so another fun topic that's had a lot of attention today and overall at FinOps X. So we're very happy to announce that we support exports of Focus 1.0 in data exports. So like many of our exports, you're going to be able to deliver them to Amazon S3, and you're going to be able to use either the console or our APIs. The console and the APIs allow things like selecting columns, filtering, choosing the file types. And some important notes is that we are including all 43 columns from Focus 1.0. And for those that aren't as familiar with the specification, it actually allows for providers to add their own additional columns for any sort of information that the spec doesn't actually include right now. And so we've chosen to add 5 AWS specific columns, and that enables some queries that you're able to do with the cur that are a little bit more detailed than just what's default right now in Focus 1.0. And so I'd like to talk about some of the things, some of the aspects of Focus 1.0 that we really enjoy. And the first one is the consistent treatment of amortization and discounts. So if anyone's worked with the cur before, they know that they have to go to different places to get different cost columns. And with Focus 1.0, it becomes simplified into a series of just 4 columns that provide your costs. And more specifically, one column that's pretty great is the effective costs. So this is the one that applies the amortization of savings plans and RIs all into one column. And another feature of it is that Focus actually makes it easy for you to calculate with a simple query any unused commitment waste. There's a line item type that's called unused commitment, and that will actually have a line item showing the costs that you paid for a commitment that you didn't actually utilize. And then lastly, as with any standardization, just the inclusion of a consistent column schema, as well as the requirements to use consistent dimensional values, such as units, will reduce the need to normalize your data if you're going to combine cost and usage data from multiple sources. And so in this really simple example here, I'll go over to just kind of give a feel for how Focus works. We have a first one for on-demand usage, where you have, and this is obviously shortens not all of the columns that are included, but we would provide a list cost saying what the public on-demand rate was, and then the build costs and the effective costs would include any sort of discounts that applied to that line item. And so it makes it easy for you to go to one location. In the savings plan example, we show how savings plan would appear in Focus. So you would have a purchase that represents either your upfront fee or your recurring fee. And you can kind of think about this like accounting, actually. So I have a purchase where I show the cash basis in build costs, the dollar that was exchanged for this RI or SP. And then I have the actual burn down or the recognition of the usage of that commitment in the usage line items. Those ones have a 0 build cost because I've already paid for it in the other line item, but they'll have an effective cost showing the amortization of the used or unused portions of that RI or savings plan. So encourage you to all to dive more deeply into it. It's going to take some time to get familiar with, as any complex specification requires, but we're really excited about that. And there's going to be 2 ways to create an export of Focus 1.0. You can create it using the Data Exports console or using our SDKs and CLI. And to sum it up, we have one last video showing how easy it is to do. So again, I'm just going to the Create Export page, giving my export a name, and then I'm going to go down below and select the Focus 1.0 feature. We have a note that it's still in preview, and so we're going to be asking for a lot of feedback, and you can read more in our documentation about how we're supporting it today. And then I can select the columns that I want included. You can see the SQL query that's generated. Going down further, I can specify some delivery options, such as file format, the file versioning. And then lastly, I specify the S3 bucket that I want delivered to. And I can either create a new one or I can deliver to an existing one. And then finally, when I click create, I'm basically creating a job that's going to deliver the data on a regular recurring basis. But at any time, I can go back and modify that export if I want to change the contents of it. OK, so many of you are probably going to be asking yourselves, how can I get started using data exports for Focus 1.0? So the first thing that you're going to need to do is obviously enable the export, or by creating one that, like we talked about. You can do that in the console, or we also have CloudFormation support. We encourage you to bring that into an analytics tool, such as Amazon Athena, where you can start querying and comparing the queries that you would do there against maybe the ones that you were doing with the cur. And then visualize it. Put it in a BI tool like Amazon QuickSight. And if all that sounds a little daunting, don't worry, because we are also proud to announce that we have provided you a Cloud Intelligence dashboard for Focus. And so you can go onto the Cloud Intelligence dashboards page and download a CloudFormation template that you can deploy into your account. It'll create the Focus export for you. It'll deploy the QuickSight dashboard with pre-made visuals. Your data will automatically start populating it, and you can start getting value from the Focus schema right away. So thank you, everyone, for your time. We'd be happy to accept any questions.
I'm going to work the room all the way this side, all the way that side. We got a good 20 minutes for Q&A. Keeping with the theme, I will lightly jog and not run. Merritt.
Hi, on the data exports page, I did not see legacy cur on there anymore. Is that just a wireframe, or is that no longer an option?
It should be there, actually. Let's go. It's at the very top.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I did cut off the start, so legacy cur is still there. It'll be on the far right.
Okay, yep. Just a minor anxiety attack as it started to break
I apologize.
everywhere, and I was like, I thought Rick told me he'd learned his lesson on this.
Yep, no.
I saw a hand towards the middle, but I don't remember where. Okay, I'll come back. 2, 3.
Oh, thank you for a great presentation. I actually have 3 questions for you guys. Sorry, it's a bit long. So the first one is, how updated is the recommendations? Because I'm from Atlassian. We're very mature with our FinOps practices. I surface the recommendations. I enrich it from cur data to the teams. The feedback that I get often about the compute optimizer recommendations, team go and they go to the dashboard to see, and they're like, oh, it disappeared. And then we have to go again because, it appeared yesterday and then disappeared again. So how updated is the recommendations? That's my first question. The second one is about the discount cost that you showed in Focus. Would that be truly fully loaded, including potentially any EDPs? Or is that still just a commitment-based discounts based on public pricing? That's the second question. The third one is, I'm finally happy to see the unused part of the commitments showing incur as a line item. Thank you very much. It was always a struggle. Would this be updated daily, or would it be at the end of the month? And that would be all.
So for the first question about the recommendations, they're updated daily. So you'll get new recommendations every day based on the last 14 days by default, and then you can extend that even further. There is a requirement to have at least 30 hours of data for us to analyze. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to make a recommendation. So if you have resources that are starting and stopping frequently over that time period, that may be the reason why it doesn't show up. But for databases, typically they're a little bit longer running. And so if we have 30 hours, that's going to show up in the recommendations. And that's going to be refreshed on a daily basis.
Just to correct this, the thing is they show in the recommendations, and then next day they disappear, if that makes sense. So I wasn't sure how updated is the recommendation logic. Basically, is it running on the, the last 14 days, like you said, or is it something probably even older? So by the time we get the data, it's not really relevant anymore.
Sure. So we can probably take a look at your specific resource. Maybe you can pull it up, and we can try to see what's going on for those recommendations.
All right, some tough data questions. Okay, so the first one was about discounts and whether they would all be included in those build cost and effective cost columns. So we are including any discount that you might have seen that would have been in the net unblended column in CUR will appear in build cost and in effective cost. There may be sometimes other discounts or things that appear as separate line items. For focus, those will continue to appear as separate line items, but they will appear there. So the discounts won't disappear in the focus export. And then the second one was about how often unused usage is updated, or?
The unused part of the commitments, how often it will be updated. So for example, 5 days into the month, will show how much of my usage has been unused the last 5 days? Or I have to wait for the month end?
Okay.
Reflect the whole month?
It should update continuously throughout the month. So every time that the focus export is updated, whatever, up until the point that usage is recognized in that, you will get the unused portion as of that moment. But that means that it could evolve over time as more usage data starts coming in. So you may actually see your unused usage shrink as it gets recognized.
Thank you.
Someone here. Yes, thank you.
Hi, thanks for the talk. What's the max look-back period that you can use for an RI recommendation?
So for the RDS recommendations,
Yeah.
the max is 93 days. So if you've got a quarterly cycle, you're going to be able to capture those peaks in the analysis.
Thanks. Second question was, you're now anticipating, or you're using RIs as a data point in your recommendations for optimization in RDS. Is there a way to turn that off so that I have an RI that I know is expiring? Can I anticipate and say, oh, there's a right-sizing opportunity here. When the RI expires, I can right-size, and then I can RI at the new right-sized level.
Yeah, so so the question has to do with RDS RIs and RDS right sizing. So two different sort of optimization opportunities and how we can sort of do both or one after the other. In Cost Optimization Hub, the savings that you see is going to be deduplicated across both. So as of right now, if you did both, what would the savings look like? In Compute Optimizer and in Cost Optimization Hub, we give you actually both the after discount and the before discount recommendations, savings amount. So you can see what it would look like based on public pricing and what it would look like if you had if it was based on your discounts. So that's essentially like giving you the option to turn off the RI application, so you can see both side by side and make a decision on the right sizing without the influence of an RI. And then after you make that, we would give you a new recommendation for both the usage as well as the RI on the new instance that you've right-sized to.
Okay, thanks.
On my way.
Hello. One quick question. I mentioned to the DBA team about the right-sizing recommendations, and they were pretty excited, except for the fact they said, is it going to expand to others, such as RDS for Oracle?
Yeah, so we're always thinking about what are those next resource types that customers want to optimize. And so that data point is really helpful for us to prioritize what resource types we think about next. And so we hear from customers all different types of resources, right? And we try to prioritize based on what's going to have the most impact, what's going to be actionable for customers to go and optimize. And so we really think about how many customers have these resources and what's the ROI on those optimization opportunities. So that's sort of how we think about prioritizing our next recommendations.
Zach, for you, with the focus export, do we no longer need the Kerr export? Or do you overlay the focus on the Kerr data?
Great question. So at this time, Focus is still in preview. So you should use the Kerr for any of your production FinOps tools. Ultimately, we see the choice, or we see the Focus and Kerr being something that live together into the future. And it's going to be a choice for you as the customer to decide what you want to use. If you're looking for standardization across multiple cost sources, the Focus is going to be your best bet. If you're looking for AWS to provide the most detailed, whatever column that we can come up with, we're going to put it in there. The Kerr is going to be the right choice for you. We expect that kind of these best practices too are going to be evolving over time as folks get more and more comfortable and understand what Focus is good at versus what things it maybe has challenges with.
Hi. Still on the topic of Focus, do you see, because you have now a quick site for Focus, like do you see a future where we're going to be able to like join multiple like Focus data sources and have that visibility there, or you want to have something specific?
Can't say anything specifically right now, but yeah, it does sound like a logical conclusion.
Hi. Oh, there you go. Cool. My question was related from the government sector, and just do you have a timeline for covering some of those environments that are not the standard commercial, these tools?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
For the new tools and everything that you guys just launched, do you guys have a roadmap or timeline for some of the government-related cloud portions? Yes. Yes.
No timeline yet that I think that I can comment on, but would love to stay in contact with you so that we can give you more updates.
Who else? We still have plenty of time for questions and answers. I have no answers, but I can help with questions.
What do you recommend is the best way to stay up to date with all of these new releases, changes? It's easy to stay up to date from conferences, but what about outside the conferences?
So I can start with that. So we have a section of the website on AWS where we publish blogs related to cloud financial management, FinOps. There you would be able to find things like our What's New posts. Those are going to come out every time we release a new feature for you all. And we'll often be writing blogs about it too, how you can apply these things. So that's probably a great place to start. Beyond that, if you have any representative that you work with in AWS, we try to keep all of our field teams up to date with everything that we're doing so that they can make sure to offer those solutions to our customers.
Yeah, and I think another thing is just to stay engaged with the community because there's just so many new features, so many new capabilities that are getting released. So it's always interesting to hear how someone else is using the product, what are they taking advantage of, and I mean I learned a ton this week about how people are using our products and the different ways that they're using it. So I think that's another way to really stay engaged on and stay on top of all of these new releases as well.
And if there are ways in which you think that we could be better engaged with our community, please let us know and we'd love to talk more.
Barry was on the stage earlier and is now repaying with a question.
When it comes to the RDS optimizations or right-sizing recommendations, what are some of the metrics that you look at, and are you looking at the max, P95, P99?
Yeah, so let me go back to the slide. You can see a couple of them here in the screenshot. You'll see CPU utilization. You'll see a lot of the CloudWatch metrics that we have on the instance as well as the storage layer. But if you've got RDS performance insights enabled, that allows us to give you even more insights and recommendations. So you'll see DB load as a key metric that we use for database-specific workloads in order to make these recommendations. And again, that's based on the the work that we've done with our service teams to make sure that we're really trying to be specific for databases and making sure our recommendations are going to be safe. And so CPU utilization, DB load, those are key metrics that we look at on the instance side. And then for storage work, looking at read and write IOPS as well as the throughput in order to make a recommendation for cost savings.
Thank you.
On my way.
Just to expand on this question, when we are exporting these reports, will those metrics be available to us?
So the maxes will be exported, so you'll see what the max is over the look-back period. But these specific time series, you'll have to use the RDS, the CloudWatch API in order to get those metrics. So in our recommendations, we're exporting sort of a max over that time period for each recommendation.
Right.
And then if you want a more over time view, you'll want to use the CloudWatch API.
So the max and min average will be available as part of that export?
The export will have, I think you can specify whether it's a max or min or average.
Okay.
But the recommendations themselves are based on a percentile. So we're looking at the P99.9, for example, for each of these metrics to come up with that recommendation.
Got it. Good. Thanks.
Other questions? Hearing none, please, a large round of applause.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X 2024 content on our YouTube channel on the 2024 playlist. Support our channel by liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and by leaving comments and questions for our speakers. We appreciate your support.